And again, the Lord God hath commanded that men should not murder, that they should not lie, that they should not steal, that they should not take the Lord of their God in vain. We sort of skipped on fucking 14-year-olds, though, that they should not envy, that they should not have malice, that they should not have contented one with another, that they should not commit whoredoms, and that they should do none of these things, for whoso doeth them shall perish, except for that one guy.
All of which they all did, right? Like
Right, Joseph hit all of these.
Literally, like I
Young.
could spend an entire 2-hour block of this show just going one by one and providing citations of every single time Joseph Smith did one of those things.
Yeah.
Well, let's go on to thou shalt not steal. They should not steal, according to the Revelation. Okay. We have we understand how the translation process of the Book of Mormon and the Book of Abraham worked. It was Joseph Smith had a little rock, a little chocolate-colored stone. He put the rock into his white stovepipe hat and put his face in the hat. And then the spiritual light, the magic rock, would shine forth in the darkness, and then he would speak whatever the translation was. That is how the translation method worked, right? Well, what's really fucking awesome about Mormon history is the more you examine little tiny details, the more fucking insane it gets. So, in 2015, the church released a picture of that very seer stone. And we now know what Joseph Smith's seer stone looks like because they've had it in their archives for over 100 years now. And they just have recently admitted that, yes, he did do that. Yes, he did translate it that way. And yes, we do have the seer stone. And yes, you can have a picture of it. After historians were excommunicated 30 years ago for writing about this stuff, now the church is putting it on their own website. In any case, Joseph Smith, these seer stones, he's using these as a practitioner of folk magic. The power of God lights up the stone. That's how he knows the translation. Well, he got his start in treasure digging and using a seer stone with the Chase family. There was a member of the Chase family named Sally Chase. She taught him how to use seer stones. He used one of her seer stones to locate a super duper special seer stone because apparently the gift of seership is within the heart of the seer, but having a really awesome stone amplifies that power somehow or something like that.
This is beginning to sound like 19th century Pokemon.
But I was going to say, it's like modern day crystals and shit like that, right? Like people believe in magic rocks today all the time. They just sleep with crystals under their pillow.
Hey, I got to admit, I wore a double tourmaline quartz. I had a Muleneer that was made myself out of silver wire and a double tourmaline quartz crystal hammerhead. Yeah, there was a time. Los Angeles in the 70s, man.
Hell yeah, brother.
I grew up in a Cheech and Chong movie. Yeah, we believed in the magic power of rocks.
That was my driving, man. So this stone, this chocolate-colored stone, has a fascinating journey. The stone itself has a fascinating journey because Joseph Smith found it while he was digging a well or doing a treasure dig with the Chase family. And Willard Chase provided an affidavit of how Joseph Smith acquired that stone. And Aaron, I do have another quote for you to read. This comes from Mormonism Unveiled. This is the testimony of Willard Chase. This is a signed affidavit.
All right. So after obtaining the stone, he began to publish abroad what wonders he could discover by looking in it, and made so much disturbance among the credulous part of the community, that I ordered the stone to be returned to me again. He had it in his possession about 2 years, I believe, sometime in 1825. Hiram Smith, brother of Joseph Smith, came to me and wished to borrow the same stone, alleging that they wanted to accomplish some business of importance, which could not very well.
That's the gold plates.
Which could not be very well done without the aid of the stone. I told him it was of no particular worth to me, but merely wished to keep it as a curiosity. If he would pledge me his word and honor, snicker, that I should have it when called for, he might take it, which he did, and took the stone. I thought I could rely on his word at the time. As he made a profession of religion.
I swear to God.
But in this I was disappointed, for he disregarded both his word and his honor. Why, welcome to the reality of religious truth. And this is according to the testimony of Willard Chase on Mormonism Unveiled at page 240-1.
The seer stone that Joseph Smith used to translate the Reformed Egyptian, he stole it from a neighbor.
It can't just be any rock. It has to be the rock I stole. From a guy who thinks, oh, he's got to be telling the truth. He's religious. Religious
He
people
swore to
don't
God
lie.
he'd give the rock back.
Yeah, religious people don't lie, like every day with every breath as a matter of course.
Oh, man. It's
That
like,
poor fool.
thou shalt not steal unless it's brass plates from a drunk guy or it's a seer stone from your neighbor. So you can commit the will of God by making the Book of Mormon. It's just unbelievable how patently fucking stupid this is, right? The magic rock was stolen. But beyond that, you referenced the glass looker trial, and we can actually dig into the glass looker trial because once again, it proves how much of a fraud Joseph Smith was, right? And Aaron, it's really funny to hear you talk about the glass looker trial because like he was convicted, but he didn't serve any jail time for it. It's actually a very specific technicality within the law that made it so he did not go to jail for this. It was a pre-trial hearing that was determining if they had enough evidence to go to a jury trial, and he was convicted. It was not convicted on it, but the judge wrote a verdict that Joseph Smith was guilty enough of these that they needed to collect more evidence and bring in an actual jury trial. At which point, the constable gave Joseph Smith what's known as leg bail, which was he's a destitute guy. He has no money. He's a vagrant. He's clearly committing fraud on the citizens of the town, and they were convinced that just bringing him up on the stand and having him arrested for a couple of days was sufficient enough to scare him off. So the constable said, yeah, hey, look, so we're going to arraign you in for your trial. Make sure you don't miss that court date, but we'll just let you go for now, but make sure you don't miss your second court date, your actual jury trial.
You know what this reminds me of? The first 2 times that Charles Manson spent some time in prison.
Interesting. Okay. How so?
Yeah. Because I get light sentences. He's learned his lesson.
Right. And it's interesting, too, because a reminiscence from one of the citizens later on said that we accomplished our task because he wasn't seen in the area for 2 years or more. Right. So at the end of the day, yeah, sure, he wasn't actually convicted of this. He didn't go to jail. He didn't pay the court costs. He didn't suffer legal repercussions for this. But the citizens of the town got what they wanted, and that was that Joe was scared. He never went back to that town, and when he did, he got arrested again. And that's a separate trial. But in any case, what's really interesting is the judge's verdict is not that important, even though he said misdemeanor in his.
He changed it. Look at the potential change there could be in history. If he had any clue about, oh yeah, okay, sure, this guy who's done nothing but lie his whole life has learned his lesson, and he's not going to start a 12 million member cult. Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those, big what ifs, right?
It's the butterfly wings on one side of the world that caused the hurricane on the other. I mean, here's the judge.
Exactly. Yeah. So what is interesting, though, is we do have not transcripts, but notes that attendees at the hearing took while the people were testifying. Now, the Glasslooker trial, the 1826 trial, is quite interesting because how it came about was this guy named Josiah Stowell hired Joseph Smith to be a seer because Joseph had told this guy, I can find buried treasure, and there's rumors of a Spanish mine, silver mine, down on the banks of the Susquehanna River, about 150 miles from where I live right now.
Oh, rumors?
Oh,
I like that much
rumors.
more
There's
than
legend
evidence.
of it. Oh, and it just so happens that I have the gift and power of God, that I can find buried treasure with my magic seer stone. So,
Which, by the
Josiah
way,
Stowell.
at some point we've got to show a picture of that rock.
Oh yeah, more than happy to. So in any case, Josiah Stowell hired Joseph Smith, and I'm just going to share my screen really quick here. Hired Joseph Smith to do exactly that, to find the seers, or to find the buried treasure, the Spanish silver mine. And hey, there you go. That's the seer stone for you.
It's a rock, and it's like a vague dollar store reprint of a tiger's eye.
Yeah, and I mean it's a pretty common stone, right? Like if you go to Sunstone, that's the Mormon, like the premier Mormon history conference. There are all sorts of vendors who will sell these or give them out or whatever. So I got this one from the guy who wrote the Glass Looker. Mark Elwood wrote a graphic novel of this era of Joseph Smith's history. Fascinating books, beautiful books. And I recommend checking it out. Glass Looker. He goes through all of the magic and treasure digging and everything of Joseph Smith. But so yeah, right. That's a seer stone. So Josiah Stowell hired Joseph Smith, thinking that Joseph Smith could find these things. They didn't find any treasure. So the Glass Looker trial itself is far more useful for the testimony evidence that is provided, because it teaches us about Joseph Smith's methodology. And Aaron, I do have another quote for you here, because the guy that Joseph Smith was hired by, Josiah Stowell, testified on behalf of Joseph Smith. The guy who was being defrauded by Joe was the guy who testified for Joseph. The case was largely thrown out because the person who had standing to sue Joseph Smith on this was testifying for Joseph Smith. The guy who brought the charge was his nephew, Peter Bridgman, who said, hey, uncle, that guy Joey Smith, he's being a dick, he's defrauding you. He's the one who brought the complaint. But the guy who was actually damaged, Josiah Stowell, testified for Joseph Smith. And this is a little excerpt from his testimony, and it teaches us about Joseph Smith's methods.
All right, so quoting the Stowell testimony, that prisoner had told by means of this stone where a Mr. Bacon had buried money, that he and prisoner had been in search of it, that prisoners had said that it was in a certain root of a stump 5 feet from the surface of the earth, and with it would be found a tail feather, that said Stowell and prisoner thereupon commenced digging, found a tail feather, but money was gone, that he supposed the money moved down. What?
So the way that seers would work is they would be, there was a group of treasure diggers, and each of the diggers had their own individual jobs. Most of them were ones who were digging. Others were doing somatic components of the spell. They were, driving stakes into the ground. They were drawing magic sigils in the dirt. Joseph Smith was the seer, which was he would use his seer stone, his face buried in his hat, and he would say, I see the treasure. And he would basically, without looking, he would say, it's over there. No, it's over there. It's over there. And he would direct the seer or the other diggers where they would go to the location, and they would begin digging based on where he saw with the stone the treasure was buried. So Joseph Smith told Josiah Stowell, I know where this treasure is. I see it through the seer stone. I see it is buried near the root of a stump, and there's a tail feather with it. So Josiah Stowell was like, hey, you seem to be an upright, honest boy. Let's go digging. And the two of them started digging. And when they would get close to it, every time Joseph would say, they would dig and dig and dig and not find anything. And he'd say, oh, well, let me look again. Oh, no, it's a little over that way now. Or, oh no, it's sunk further down into the ground. Well, this specific instance, he said that it's buried with a tail feather. And while Josiah Stowell and Joseph were digging, they happened to find the tail feather that the treasure was with, but the treasure just sunk down below. They couldn't get the treasure.
Because
these digs are also conducted at night. So it's not really that hard for old Joey to have a tail feather in his fucking back pocket, and when Josiah's digging a shovelful, he just whoop drops it.
There you go, there you go being logical again. And using all those facts.
Fuck. It was an
because
inference, I guess. My mistake.
So if you bury a chest full of treasure and you put a tail feather on it, because that's a thing people do, then you cover it with a bunch of dirt. So now you've got a bunch of heavy dirt on top of a feather on top of a box full of valuable shit.
Yes, 100%.
The box full of valuable shit with the feather on it, under the dirt, goes down, and somehow a gap develops between the heavy box of dirt and the
I follow. I'm following. Yes. Keep talking sense here, Aaron.
Okay. You know what I think is a grave injustice? Is that we named our species Homo sapiens sapiens, which means man the wise. And yet we're having this conversation because these things happened.
Not only did these things happen, but according to the numbers they put out, 16 million people across this planet believe that this is what happened.
Yeah, well, until 3 years ago, I was one of those 16 million, according to those same numbers.
Right. There you go. I still am, according to those numbers. So,
Fair
in any
point.
case, Josiah Stowell, okay, the Glasslooker trial may not have resulted in Joseph Smith being thrown in jail for fraud or being a disorderly person. What it did result in is the people who told and gave testimony describing the methods that he exhibited or that he used to con people. This is so clearly a con. This is unequivocally, deliberately a con that Joseph Smith was using to get Josiah Stowell's money for his own benefit. So he could make a livelihood because, hey, doing hard labor around a farm sucks. Nobody wants to do that. But if you can just have some rich guy pay you $50 for a week to go look at a rock in a hat, but come on, which one am I choosing? I sit in front of this computer all day.
Let's see, you want to be dirt poor and do hard labor, or do you want to get stinking rich lying to idiots?
Yeah. Right. there's just as many idiots as there is hard labor out there, so take your pick. So anyway, you can look at the actual court documents by going to Fraser's magazine. It's known as Judge Neely's Court Notes. You can go to fullerconsideration.com. Just Googling fullerconsideration.com and 1826 Glasslooker, and they have all of the documents there that are associated with the Glasslooker, including the judge's docket book, including the constable's bill to the court, and as well as multiple accounts of people who were in attendance. Or, hey, you can go to the church's website that I just screen shared, and you can read all about it and see a picture of the Seer stone. It's wonderful.
That's the actual stone.
That's it. That's the actual stone.
Yeah, somebody was telling me they went to go see George Washington's cherry tree axe.
Oh.
And this is someone who considers himself skeptical.
Right. That whole story.
And criticizes me for being too skeptical simultaneously. But they said that they saw George Washington's cherry tree axe. And there was a note on there that the head had rusted, so it was replaced in 18 whatever, and the wood on the handle had rotted to the point that they couldn't even use it as a museum display anymore, so they replaced the handle in 19 whatever.
Okay. So it's just a different axe.
well, it's a little bit worse than that, because not only is no part of the axe involved in the incident, the incident never happened.
The story is false, yeah.
By the way, just to prove this one, in case people watch this later, Ivory Darkness sent me his glass. It just arrived as we were doing this interview. That's why I had to do a quick cut, because my dogs lost their fucking mind when the mailman showed up.
Absolutely. Well, thank you to Ivory Darkness. How apropos that it shows up while we're recording this.
Yep.
Perfect.
All right. So do please continue, sir.
Right. So the Glasslicker trial is interesting. Now, when we're talking about stealing, this is where we can really kind of dive into the Kirtland Safety Society. Now, this is the bank.
This is where they were manufacturing their own money.
Yes, this is where they created
This is a
their own money.
story my Mormon family never shared.
Why? Why wouldn't they share that, Aaron? Well, why don't we dig in? So, the church was in a ton of debt, right? Lawsuits coming from everybody, creditors constantly knocking on Joe's door. So, the way that he resolved to solve the problems here was let's create a bank. So, they applied to the Ohio State Legislature for a bank charter, and the charter was refused. Joseph Smith had sent Oliver Cowdery on a mission to go get printing plates for the money that they were going to be printing. And Oliver showed up with the banknotes, or the plates, to print the Kirtland Safety Society banknotes. But in the time from when they had the plates made to when Oliver Cowdery returned with the plates, the charter was rejected.
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I got a service interruption. You said that the charter was refused.
Right.
I didn't hear anything for a moment. I had to log back into StreamYard. I don't know what the fuck happened there. But...
Okay, I can start that. I'll just go back to it again.
Yeah.
So Joseph Smith had sent Oliver Cowdery on a mission to go commission the printing plates to be used for the Kirtland Safety Society banknotes. And in the time period from when Oliver Cowdery went to go, purchase those printing plates to when he got back, the charter was rejected. Well, they just decided to start printing the money as the Kirtland Safety Society banknotes without a charter. And then that resulted in lawsuits and problems and people saying, what the fuck are you doing? So instead what they did was, oh, no, we aren't, we're not a bank. We are an anti-banking society. And they just engraved anti and ing before and after bank. So it now read, instead of Kirtland Safety Society Banking Company, it is anti-banking company. Now,
so they were doing the 19th century version of Dogecoin.
More or less. Oh, look. Hey, I mean, I'll screen share one real quick here, just so everyone can see.
Yeah, we got to see this bill. We got to see that the Mormons just made up their own currency.
And this is not the first or only time that they made up their own currency. Now, let me zoom in a little bit here. But here you can see Kirtland Safety Society. This was for sale on Rick Grunder's website here. Signed by Joseph Smith, cashier, and Sidney Rigdon, president. This is the Kirtland Safety Society Bank $5 banknote here. And if you'll give me a second, I will find one of the Anti-Banking Society notes. Because you can see where they just engraved the anti and ing in front of and before the Kirtland Safety Society here. So, of course, there are a whole bunch here. Here we go. Here's a good example of it. And what's crazy too is, like, these are incredible collector items. Like, I would do unspeakable things with people to have one of these things, to get one of these notes. These are just absolutely incredible things here. But hey, this is one of the see where they scratched into the printing plate anti and ing on either side of bank company. So they were no longer a bank, they were an anti-banking society. And they kept printing these fucking notes. So I was just saying, if anybody is looking for a gift for old Bryce Blankenagel, Kirtland Safety Society banknote would be really high on the list. I would give many body parts for one of these things. In any case, they're a hell of a collector's item in the Mormon tradition, because it's such a self-contained story of Joseph Smith committing fraud on a massive scale, commanding people by the words of God to invest in his anti-banking bank society, where he's printing money. And look, the charge, these are not counterfeit bills. These are his own charter, non-chartered society notes. But I will also say that the charges of counterfeit run replete throughout Mormon history. Even before Joseph Smith started the church, people were accusing him and the Joseph Smith Sr. of counterfeiting coins. So this is just one of the ways that Joseph Smith was defrauding the Mormons on a massive scale, not just by his religious claims, but by creating a society that literally stole all of their life savings from them.